my opponents are talking about how it would be so beneficial in the future and how it'll help you branch out, but I think it's kind of the opposite. First of all, the way that they're explaining is that there's sufficient amount of money and schools and the time to do all of this, which just simply doesn't exist. There's budget cuts happening every year. Like, our school has budget cuts, every school has budget cuts. We simply can't afford to have so many extravagant Latin, Greek, like, it just doesn't make sense. You need proper equipment to learn a foreign language, including audiovisual and computer aids. And with budget cuts not being able to support that, it might even turn the child off to the concept of learning a foreign language. Schools lack resources. If you want to implement the learning of new languages, you need to have specialized teachers who, if you want them to be good in a certain language, there's going to be one teacher per language. So the shortage of teachers trained to teach a child a second language is a problem. And because the same teacher can't teach the same language to every child, you're going to need multiple teachers, which is going to add to your expense. Without that, the same teacher teaching different languages is going to have an ineffective result, because of the same approach that one teacher has on adults and on a certain language is going to vary. So you have to have one for children's age, you have to have one for an adult age, you need to have one for that language and a different language, so it gets expensive. There was a survey done of 4,000 people. They were asked 3 questions: if they could speak a language other than English, how well they could speak it, and where they learned it, if it was at home, at school, or somewhere else. So 25.7% of respondents said that they spoke a language other than English, and then 41.5% said that they spoke it very well, and then 7.0% say that they learned it in school. So when you multiply these three numbers, you get 0.7%. That 0.7% means that in 2 years, which is the average time students take to study a foreign language, like 2 years of high school or whatever, less than 1 student in 100 acquires fluency. So that 0.7% is all you get from 2 years of learning the language. It's so pointless. Like, you're wasting so much time. There's something called diminishing returns, which is an economic term, and it's defined as any rate of production that beyond a certain point fails to increase proportionality with added effort. So the fact that 2 full years of instruction have almost zero effect implies that massive spending increases would be required to noticeably raise foreign language fluency. According to Blake Hounshell, who is the managing editor of Foreign Policy magazine, the time spent learning a foreign language could be better spent learning about science or math. There's evidence that students achieve much fluency in high school, according to an article in the Washington Post. I have a testimony from someone, an anonymous person, talking about their child who he put into a program to learn a foreign language when they were at a young age. So he said that 2 of my children were serious Spanish students in programs that had them live with the families in Latin America, and today as adults they use the language, but they developed few conversational skills, they just had enough skill to get good grades in school. So the effects of learning a new language are really short term. In the long term, it doesn't really stick with anyone because they're not practicing it all the time. And so my opponents were saying that it doesn't affect your heritage or your culture, but it does, because there's thousands of things that people can learn, and they're not all being taught in schools. So it is affected. Thanks.